We are The Meltdown, and we are here with yet another retro trailer reaction. The series looks to reintroduce and put the spotlight on some notable movies from previous years. All of the choices featured within this series have been hand-selected by our Meltdown crew. Some of these selections include some of us completing first-time watches, and some include those timeless classics that we may have all seen numerous times. Join us throughout all of Season 1 for a look at the retro trailers and the discussions that follow. Today's entry is 2005's The Skeleton Key, starring Kate Hudson, and it is directed by English filmmaker Ian Softly. In an interview with Sci-Fi Wire, director Ian Softly spoke about how he was captivated by the story of the movie, written by Aaron Kruger, who has writing credits for other films like The Ring and Top Gun Maverick. Softly said, quote, "I was gripped by it, and it kept me guessing all the way through. I thought it had a stunning ending, which is half the battle, and I thought it was very clever. I also liked the fact that it was very much rooted in a particular geographical place. It was rooted in New Orleans, and the folklore of hoodoo, which underpins the whole story. It used that folklore to really tell a story about the revenge of the black servants on their masters." Despite having almost no dialogue throughout the 104-minute runtime, notable actor John Hurt was cast in the invalid role of Ben. Softly admits, quote, "A lot of people thought it was a bit contrary to hire an actor who's known for, amongst other things, his amazing voice, but he liked that. He thought that was amusing, and he thought that that was a challenge for him because it was something he'd never done before. He and Gina Rowlands got on incredibly well. They became really good friends, and he loved the world. John was a very international traveler throughout his life. He was very adventurous and very interested by challenges, and so he loved it. He was a really enthusiastic traveler with us. I knew that I needed someone who had that power and that presence to make such a minimal role function in the way that it needed to. He was brilliant in it, and I became a good friend of his as a result." You may remember, Hurt passed away in 2017 at the age of 77. He was also a part of our most recent retro trailer reaction for Alien. So with that, let me introduce our panel. I am Meltdown host Tim Melton. That is my co-host, John Lunsford.
John Hurt, good name. John Lunsford, John Hurt, get it?
I totally get it.
Wow.
I had never drawn that parallel before. Our producer is Tyler Johns.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
And we also have loved Meltdown contributor Rockstar, who you see daily on The Next Round.
I don't have a desktop computer.
Rockstar, one thing you do have is a love for this movie. Why did you pick 2005's The Skeleton Key starring Kate Hudson?
It was one of those movies. How many times do you think I've seen this movie, including last night?
I am going to say twice.
Yes. The first one impacted me. I was like, that's an original concept, and it's something that never gets talked about as a movie like this, and then another movie that gets heavily promoted as one of the most amazing, innovative things ever. And I just thought about, like, nobody really talked. I never see it on, like, TNT. I never saw, like, on, it's never available. It's only available on streaming every now and then. It's just like, it's not an amazing movie. I just like, it's a solid movie. It's just like The Game that I picked. I was just like, it's just a movie that's a thinker that's like, I love the concept. And if I remember all of it now from 2005, almost 20 years later, I only see it once. To make me see it again was, that's why I chose something like that.
It is a movie that has obviously stuck with you throughout the years. So without any further hesitation, John, I would like for us to now see the retro trailer for The Skeleton Key.
In Terrebonne Parish and the surrounding bayous of Louisiana, there are those who practice little-known rituals of magic and witchcraft, conjure and sacrifice. Some do not believe in their power, but strange, frightening, and unexplained incidents happen there to this day.
Terrible parish. That's the swamps. For 1,000 a week, I'll survive. 25 years old. What's wrong with a little change? Hello?
Take good care of my husband.
Stroke pretty much paralyzed him. I admire you, what you do.
Not bad. I'll be taking care of you for a while. Ben, you're hurting me.
There you are. Time for his remedies.
That brick dust, how's it work?
Nobody that means you harm can cross it. You lay a line down is how you tell who your enemies are.
That attic is filled with stuff. Recipes, spells.
You don't know what you've seen.
But it can't hurt you if you don't believe.
I suggest you leave that house before you do.
You see him in the mirrors.
Who? What happened? Who are you afraid of? Tell me who you're afraid of.
The ghosts are here now. We've been waiting for you, Caroline.
It is time, Lord, from the devil's house. Take me out of darkness.
I don't believe. No! I don't believe. I don't believe! I don't believe!
It is time, Lord.
It's real. It's all real.
There's the trailer. From this point on, we'll be including spoilers for The Skeleton Key in our discussion points, so if you'd like to watch the movie first and come back to us, feel free to pause this video now. As we saw in parts of the trailer, Caroline Ellis is a good-natured nurse living in New Orleans who quits her job at a hospice to work for an elderly woman whose husband is in poor health following a stroke. When Caroline begins to explore the couple's rundown Bayou mansion, she discovers strange artifacts and learns the house has a mysterious past. As she continues to investigate, she realizes that the woman is keeping a sinister secret about the cause of her husband's illness. So, John, considering you hate horror movies, and this is the third one in a row that we've done,
Thank you.
what was your take on The Skeleton Key?
So I'm with Rocky. I have now seen this twice because the minute Get Out came out and I watched it and I was like, this was a pretty good movie. Then my wife, ever since then, has been like, yeah, but you got to see the real one, the original one, The Skeleton Key. So we sat down and watched it a few years back just because pretty much during COVID we were watching whatever we could. And I watched it then and I had the same opinion then that I do now. This movie, and the trailer shows it, is trying to be a lot scarier than it actually is. That it's trying to make it sound like the entire movie is going to be all kind of witchcraft and hoodoo and all this kind of stuff. And it trickles in there until pretty much the end. And then there's like one bit and then it's pretty much done after that, that it's really not that scary. I honestly had to look and see it's actually like classified as a horror film because it's not really, to me, it's very much a watered down horror film. I think there's more horror in Get Out than there is in this. I think Get Out is a better movie than this. I understand. Well, hey, it clearly, pulled from something like this. The most interesting thing to me is I didn't realize the person that wrote this also wrote The Ring, which I know hit at a time where those kind of movies were really popular, The Ring, The Grudge, kind of those Japanese horror. And then randomly saw that this guy also wrote Top Gun Maverick. It's totally random, the things that this person has written. But it just doesn't really do it for me. Kate Hudson had never really done it for me. I really do like John Hurt. There's a lot of things he's done that I've really liked. But he didn't ever say anything. Like you said, he didn't say anything in the movie. So yeah, that's about all you get. So it's like the one person in this movie I would like going in, because I'm not a big Peter Sarsgaard fan either, or his wife. But the one person who I would like in this doesn't say anything. So there's not much for me in this movie.
As you can read up on at sci-fi.com, a little over a decade after The Skeleton Key arrived on the big screen, comedian Jordan Peele made his directorial debut with Get Out that grabbed an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. One could even say that Peele's film plays like a mirror reflection of The Skeleton Key, particularly with regards to the idea of people seeking long life by possessing or switching into a body of someone from the other race. That's according to the film's director, who said that. This is a director who actually received a heads up on the similarities between the two movies from an unnamed Blumhouse producer ahead of Get Out's theatrical debut. He went on to say, quote, "It's not unprecedented, and you could argue it's legitimate that one film is influenced by another. It happens all the time, and the best people do it. I think it's a good film, by the way," talking about Get Out, "but it was particularly strange having been told in advance that I was going to feel a little bit annoyed with them that it was this close." That was one of the producers who admitted that. Then that was the last time I heard that admission, but that's water under a bridge. It always tickles me when people get outraged on my behalf. Tyler, what are some of the elements that you liked and disliked about The Skeleton Key?
I like the setting a lot. I really like that New Orleans Bayou swamp area as a setting, especially with all of the voodoo and hoodoo that comes into the story. One thing I didn't like, though, there were some parts where it was very fast and choppy, and I did not like that at all. It reminded me of the first Saw movie where the guy has to get the combination to the safe off the wall, and he's running all around the room. And I didn't like it then, and I still don't like that.
It was definitely an early 2000s horror movie trend.
There's a certain
chop
vibe
things up
that you definitely
way.
get from it.
Yeah. Anything else on the Skeleton Key?
I really liked the ending. I thought that was cool. I definitely see how this walked so Get Out could run. I still prefer Get Out, but this was pretty good.
All I can think of is the running scene in Get Out when he's standing there. Tyler painted the picture perfect. All right, I want to get into a couple things I liked and disliked. I like the scene that recounts the lynching that took place, putting into motion the underlying motivation of the entire movie. I thought that was done extremely well, and it holds up to being jarring to this day with the way in which that was shot. It does have some choppy editing, but it's for effect, for sure. The fact that the movie was able to be so intense at points and keep a PG-13 rating actually, I think, deserves some recognition. I don't think this movie performs as well if it does get the R rating compared to the PG-13, and it was able to sort of keep its spirit about it while also being able to achieve that rating. Kate Hudson's film wardrobe at times feels very similar to Jessica Biel's of the 2003 Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot, which is memorable for style of early 2000s Final Girls. John Hurt is really committed to his performance, even though he doesn't do a lot of speaking. You can tell he's into it, and he does not mail it in for sure. The ending is just as bleak as I would actually like it to be. I like that this movie ends on a sour note and that the bad guys basically win, or they're able to continue going about their business the way that moves the plot forward. I actually like that it has sort of a downturn at the end. Things I wasn't wild about. The majority of the movie's on-screen action feels pretty generic and formulaic, of just sort of going from room to room, hoping no one walks in, creeping around in the darkness. Speaking of the darkness, it was shot in a way that made the final product at times tough to see on screen for me. Obviously, with the majority of the scenes occurring at night, a lot of that action
during
was
a thunderstorm
meant to exist in the darkness, but it's a movie that looks very dark. Peter Sarsgaard's southern accent is painful to listen to, in my opinion.
Oh, yes.
I mean, it is painful. Although, if you look at the deeper layers of the story, you could make the argument that
that's not really him.
It's not really him, and that it's a little bit of an act.
Yeah.
And, like, it's having to be laid on thick because of generations of how maybe people sounded. But I hate that accent. I don't want to listen to it ever again.
No. Well, remember with was it Violet? She's got pissed because she said that you're not even from. Kate Hudson was from New Jersey, and she's like, you don't even sound like you're Southern. And so like you can now it goes like, oh, okay, because she's okay.
You don't even have gardens there, do you?
Yeah.
It's called the Garden State. Kate Hudson's character could have easily gotten away, I think, 15,000 times throughout this movie. Literally, why not just get the hell out?
And did she ever make it a full week to get even a pay? I know she doesn't win in the end because she ends up not being there. But did she ever get her $1,000?
I don't think she ever even gets the money. She should have got an advance at least for all of that.
$1,000 a week, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think the overall story is better than the execution of the final film. A retelling of this around a campfire.
I'd agree.
Oh, yeah.
This is a campfire story.
I hate
that makes for a subpar film.
I hate the name Justify. I mean, that was like, you're going to name it Justify.
Oh, yeah. I forgot
Cecilia
to add that
and
to my
Justify.
list of dislikes. Papa Justifies the dumbest voodoo name ever.
They weren't able to justify it.
Oh,
Look,
God.
this is...
I'll give you that one.
Thank you, Tyler. Finally, some credit from Tyler this week.
People of hoodoo.
I'm going to say, I don't think this is controversial to say this, but Get Out is a more perfectly executed film regardless of the comparisons.
It's a better backstory.
It is just a better film.
Right.
In every regard.
Yes.
And I love, paying respect to original properties, but this Get Out, like Tyler said, it's a movie that had some run to it compared to this.
And one more thing that I looked at to see, is this a success, box office? And it doubled its money from what the budget was, and that's not counting marketing or whatever. The Skeleton Key, $43 million to make. Get Out, $4.5 million.
Wow.
How's that even possible?
Because Jason Blum pinches pennies. That's what he does.
But he creates plenty of stinkers, but creates a lot of really good movies, and this was a much better technically executed movie versus a movie that spent 10 times as much money.
And I wouldn't say it was for her salary because she's not an A-list actress. I mean, where did that money go to?
At that point, outside of her being a Nepo baby, which Allison Williams is too, couldn't you compare those two?
Yeah.
Pretty closely. I mean, plus the other people that you had in there as well.
The thing that I hated the most from this movie was the soundtrack selection used in the credits of Elvis's If I Can Dream.
Yeah.
Talk about a song that was not intended for the purposes of bringing to life the Skeleton Key, with the importance of what that song was. And I just feel like it was this, when I heard that playing, I was like, this has got to be like a fan edit of this. This can't possibly be like the actual film, but there it is in the credits. Rockstar, with it being your choice, you get the final word on the impact of this film and your likes and dislikes.
Oh, the impact, is again, it's something like, I remember that movie. It was a good watch the first time. I liked the story and everything, so I'd be willing to watch it again. It doesn't really get a lot of talk. But some questions I have, and I like the fact that she's talking to her roommate, talking about, like, I'm going to make him, he believes that he's cursed, so I don't believe in this stuff, but if he does, I can make him believe that I'm curing him, and that turns out to be, the question was at the final scene where she's in the attic and she's drawn the circle and then the hair, and Violet says that, that was a curse to keep you in the circle. Do you think that was true, or she's just convinced, like, oh no, like she could actually move out of it, but she doesn't even try because, like, oh no, that's probably right. She's swindled me, that now I'm stuck in this circle, like stuff like that, where, like, in turn, like, she starts to believing all the hoodoo nonsense. Caroline, I believe you've broken my legs. But like I just like just some of the stuff, like, and John Hurt was committed, but he did play the same role in Indiana Jones in the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Remember, he was for 3/4 of the movie, he was that same exact character. But yeah, like there was some dislikes with my question was with the brick dust. You put it on the door, and it prevents if Tim is going to harm me, he can't cross the threshold. Yeah. But when they go to my only question is when they go to the house thing, and like you can tell they were talking to the voodoo lady that has no eyes. There's brick dust on the ground. Kate walks over it, and then Peter Skarsgård looks at it and goes, "Oh, ladies first." And then the next scene is both of them in there.
He's inside. I asked the same
just
question.
Like, what is going on here?
Of course, my wife, who wants to defend this movie, is like, well, no, if you think about it, he's not there to harm her necessarily. So he can't cross. He can cross that.
So that was one mistake. I was like,
how do you end up getting upstairs? Because she put it everywhere where it's like, I can't get upstairs. She specifically says, I can't get upstairs.
I think,
next thing you know, he's upstairs. It's like,
if I'm going to take you, why am I going to shoot you with a shotgun?
I think the movie intentionally.
Yeah. That's a really good point.
I didn't think it the first time, but I did the second time.
And who the hell locks their gate like that? Like, we can't get out. With somebody we put an actual padlock on the gate with chains, and she's like, well, my beetle will go through it. Nope.
I think the movie intentionally tries to leave it vague on what parts of hoodoo actually are effective and what parts are maybe just a con job and being sold to the public as something that is actually going to work that doesn't work out.
I wish there was more interaction with that potion lady. Seriously, there's like they had one interaction. She's like, this will do it. She's got a little shelf. It was like, just do this. It's like, and that was it.
I believe some parts of it. I don't believe other parts of it.
Yeah.
Only the parts that are going to hurt me. It's okay.
The Skeleton Key was filmed at the Felicity Plantation located on the Mississippi River in St. James Parish, Louisiana, at the insistence of its director, saying, quote, I made several trips to New Orleans and decided that it was such an important environment and location for the film story. I wanted to shoot as much as possible there for creative reasons. I wanted all of us to be immersed in that world, and that wasn't our initial sense. The studio wanted the main bulk of the production to take place in Los Angeles, but softly convinced them to reconsider during a hiatus caused by Hudson's first pregnancy, saying, quote, I think the film benefited not just from the location, but from myself and the crew and the heads of department really familiarizing themselves and making contact with a lot of advisors in the city that enabled us to bring authenticity to it. I think we all agree the setting of this film is its strongest asset.
Yeah.
I think we all agree with that. The Skeleton Key was released in the U.S. on August 12th of 2005. It grossed $92 million worldwide in the U.S. It took in $16.1 million in its first weekend, reaching number 2 at the box office behind the movie Four Brothers. The total U.S. gross was $47.9 million with a worldwide gross of that $93.9 million. So that's what you need to know about The Skeleton Key. Is this a movie you appreciate all of these years later? Let us know in the comment section below. And make sure you take a look, John, at our title sponsor. That's MyBookie.
Go to mybookie.ag. See right there, promo code next round. You can use that, get a first deposit bonus on us. You can bet on hockey, basketball, baseball, football, literally anything you want. You can also play in that live casino as well. Go to mybookie.ag.
That's going to do it for our retro trailer reaction of The Skeleton Key. We appreciate those thumbs up and the subscriptions. Will this be the final John Hurt movie that we do in season 1? Only time will tell, as he seems to be an actor that's trending in all of these retro trailer reactions right here on The Meltdown.